The Southern Ocean awaits. The second leg of this epic adventure will see our 7 crews encounter one of the most treacherous, most volatile stretches of water on the planet. This isn't a place for the faint-hearted.
There isn't an attraction down there whatsoever.
The first time I went on this leg from here to Fremantle 8 years ago, I did a really bad job.
It's snowing, it's cold, you can't get saved, you know, you're in the middle of nowhere.
A piece of ice, a metre square, weighs nearly a tonne, and that's more than enough to cause serious damage to a boat moving at 30 knots.
I had no idea of what it meant to go in the Southern Ocean. I put the biggest spinnaker up all the time. When the guys who had been there before told me, hey, this is too much sail area, I said, you pussies, keep going. And we broke everything on the boat. We almost killed a guy.
When you sort of dip down into the Southern Ocean, you sort of wonder what's going to happen.
I think there will be a lot of carnage as well.
Southern Ocean, many stories. You know, of course, you always, I want to do it. Now, a week before you go, oh God, I'm actually going to have to do it.
Make a wrong move now, and at best, your race is over. It's departure day in Cape Town as the crews prepare for the start of the second leg of the Volvo Ocean Race. It's time once again to say goodbye.
Not pressure, really. It's just, you know, a little anxiety, just leaving the family behind and heading out on a leg that'll be pretty windy, pretty rough. So just, you know, it helps to have done it before, though.
Oh, the pressure is more on which way to go because it looks like to be very tricky. Looks to be like a lot of upwinds. Looking for a slow race in the beginning and just like there won't be any. It will be very hard to make breaks over here because just how the whole weather is setting up. So it's different than the other day. So that's a bit like you have to be awake like foxes in the first 4 or 5 days.
You're never confident taking these things into the Southern Ocean, so no, quite some good butterflies this morning, to be honest. Bit of boarding school stomach, which I haven't had for quite a few years. So yeah, a little bit apprehensive about getting down there, but I'm sure once we get out there and get underway, it'll be all good.
Yeah, we're really excited about it actually. This morning, half an hour ago, which is only 4 hours before the start, we're actually sitting up in the hotel eating breakfast as a team. We're saying this is actually a bit unusual. We've got the boat in the water. We're not 30 miles from the start line, and you know, it's a much different situation to how we were for leg 1. We're really looking forward to leg 2, and hopefully we'll be in good shape when we get to Melbourne.
For the crew of ING Real Estate Brunel, it's a particularly poignant moment. Their sponsorship deal will only take them as far as Melbourne. This could be the last time that they'll set sail together. And this is the route they all face. 6,000 miles of Southern Ocean. The further south you go, the shorter the distance, but the greater the risk. The race organizers have included mandatory scoring gates to curb the southward instinct. Above all, it's about balancing speed with safety. Simply crossing this violent expanse of water is the first priority. The history of this great competition is peppered with tales of woe from this unforgiving environment. 4 years ago, Ross Field had a traumatic experience on board News Corps.
I was steering the boat and we were blasting through the Southern Ocean and there was icebergs everywhere and there was ice in the water. I had Gordon Maguire standing behind me on the life raft, looking out, saying, Ross, come up a little bit, go down a little bit as we're dodging the ice. And I thought, man, this is close, you know.
Hold that course.
See this one here on the bow?
And then, you know, he said, okay, we're clear now, and then bang, we heard a bang underneath the boat. Boom, 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 as the ice went through underneath the boat. And that would be the time when I was most concerned, because you're a long way down there. If something goes wrong, no one's going to come to you in a hurry.
Field wasn't alone in encountering danger. Others also came unstuck.
Towards Sydney. Already short-handed and skipper Grant Dalton strapped to his bunk with cracked ribs, Amma Sports 1 was still on the pace when disaster struck for helmsman Bauer Becking.
Juice Dragons was breathing down our neck, so we had a lot of pressure on. There was a lot of breeze the night before, and basically fatigue came in. We made a call, we made an early jibe, and we just didn't manage to get the ley line, so we had to sail really low, lower than you ever would sail, and then a wrong wave picked our stern up and I lost control, and we went the wrong way, and that was it.
Oh, watch out, keep an eye on her. It's jibe, broached. Oh, broached.
Once it's gone, you just know you just know that split second too late.
On its side and the rudder out of the water, Dalton's crew fought manfully to recover the spinnaker and bring the boat upright.
Our tactician, D. Smith, he actually went through the lifeline, so once I knew we were gone, the first thing I did was grabbing his legs to prevent that he was washing over the side. And then it was just a matter of getting all the carnage down and go sailing again. And actually we came very close to Juice Dragons again. So it was a classical example as well, never give up.
Ericsson's Tom Braidwood was also a witness to the volatile nature of the Southern Ocean last time around.
I remember before going on watch, you know, I was laying in my bunk and you wake up just a little bit before, and you can feel the boat chucking around, and so you knew you were going on watch for a pretty intense 4 hours. We were going about 28 knots, and I think we had 48 knots of breeze, which is, you know, it's a good amount of breeze in the Southern Ocean. I was grinding and I was looking back and I said, oh, this next one's got a fair bit in it. Also the breeze shifted and a bad wave, and everything added up, and we just went in backwards. Pretty scary. I mean, like, we were on our side pin for a bit of time, and myself and one other guy were hanging onto a pedestal and the boat's completely on its side, so you're just dangling there, and it's all a bit surreal, and you know the other guys are completely underwater beneath you, but you know also the hatch of the boat's underwater, so something's got to give. Either the boat keeps going down or the rig breaks, and the rig broke. It always gets quiet after that.
Remarkably, with just 8 feet of the mast intact, Krantz's crew had the boat jury-rigged and sailing again at 8 knots.
Traditionally, on the Southern Ocean leg, there are 2 basic strategies. Go south. This is the shortest route to Melbourne, and there are likely to be stronger winds. Take a more northerly route. This will probably mean lighter winds and will be much less stressful on the boat and crew. It should also keep the boat well clear of icebergs.
The first thing we've got to do is get here and get clear of Cape Point in good shape, and then it's a race to get into the Southern Ocean, which more often than not is a race to get south. And then once we get as far south as we want, then it's more a case of just playing the shifts and going east as fast as we can.
The Southern Ocean is the Southern Ocean. It's going to throw everything at us. We can expect some big storms, perhaps a bit of ice, and some pretty harsh conditions, and we're going to just have to get on top of that as a team. And the biggest thing, I think, is to avoid downtime and avoid breakages. So we'll be doing our best to keep the boat in one piece while still keeping the pedal down.
In the past, most boats have opted to pick up the conveyor belt of the southern low pressure zone as quickly as possible. The difficulty for the teams this time is that the Volvo Open 70 is a new design, and finding the optimum conditions may be a case of trial and error.
Everything about these boats we've probably underestimated, probably, you know, expense, braking strains, speeds. Everything seems to have been underestimated, and we've always said right from the start that these will be a difficult boat to sail. and they're a bit past difficult.
I think, yeah, there's a good chance that we will stay a little bit further north than previous races, because whereas with the older boats, the more and more wind you had, the faster and faster you got. But we get to a stage with these boats where we really don't want any more wind, and it just makes things harder, and if anything slower than it would if we had a little bit less. So yeah, we'll only be looking for maybe 30 knots of wind at most. Maybe not apprehensive, a little bit nervous about it. You know, it is going to be tough in these things down there. It's going to be extreme. You know, it is. Volvo are certainly going to get their wish of life at the extreme, because it's going to be hardcore. It's going to be extremely wet, extremely wild, and it's going to be tough. So if he who does the nicest job keeps it tidy, keeps lingering on the front of the pack, and but can keep his guys in good shape, keep the boat in good shape, and sail at the right intensity, it's going to be those that walk that line the best are going to end up with the points in Melbourne, in my opinion.
Master battery on, and we have a stroke.
While thoughts turn to the challenge ahead, Pirates of the Caribbean bowman Justin Kluwer takes to the air above Cape Town with his young son to clear his head before boarding the boat.
Okay, Grimy, you okay? Okay, here we go. 260 degrees at 15 knots. Cleared for takeoff, Cheers.
The base of Table Mountain over the Victorian Alfred waterfront, had a look at the boats down in the harbour, which was very nice.
There's the boats right down there below us. There's 7 of them. Yep.
Flying an aircraft is just like sailing a boat. They're both use the same dynamics, but just we use air as a medium, and then on the boat you have air and water acting on your foil shapes as, you know, lift and weight, thrust and drag. They're both basic elements of both things. So flying does relate to yachting, helping look at the wind and seeing breeze patterns and things like that, for sure. Everybody goes up there for a look if they can.
Kluwer's crew are under pressure. Withdrawal from the first leg was followed by a succession of mistakes in the Cape Town import race. Plenty for the skipper to think about ahead of the second leg.
We found out that our keel canting mechanism is not fast enough. It's not as fast as the others. And that's a big problem, because what you need to do well to jibe in those conditions is to go into the maneuver at the highest speed possible, which requires the keel fully canted to one side. And then in order to have the stability on the new jibe so that you don't tip over, you need the keel fully on the other side. The maneuver takes about 10 seconds to execute. If you make it take any longer than that, the boat goes too slow, and then you're heavily loaded. Our keel canting mechanism takes 40 seconds to go from side to side, while ABN's takes 10 seconds. So this, we've now learned, is a big deficit, and we have to work on this hard, and hopefully we can fix that in Melbourne.
The problems don't end with the keel.
Where does it come from?
New weather data suggests their preferred route between Cape Town and Melbourne could be littered with danger. It's time for a rethink on tactics.
He said they'd had some 70-metre bergs north of these islands.
You think that's normal, Johnny? We didn't see any ice on this leg 8 years ago.
That's true.
And we went below those islands.
So far, what we do know about the leg is that the ice pack has moved further north than normally it is situated. So the race organisation put a waypoint in which we have to go around, and that is quite far north, which is most unusual. So that will keep us, at least in the initial stages of the race, stop us from going too far south into the low pressure systems which move across the Southern Ocean. People call them express trains and elevators, and you tend to try and go down and get onto one of those if you can. Because this waypoint's further north than normal, it'll inhibit us from doing that, at least in the initial stages.
This is the
convergence.
The convergence, so 2 degrees or whatever, and these must be berg sightings, I guess.
Yeah. Berg and Grodas, probably Bergs as one and Grodas as well.
So he's got the waypoint at 52 by 42, right up there.
Yeah, so it's quite conservative, huh?
Yeah.
46.52, and we're going 42.52. It's 4 degrees.
No, the problem is we're just, north of that.
240 miles.
There's such a big, that's quite a different race now.
Despite their problems, there's one significant factor why Pirates of the Caribbean are optimistic about winning this leg. Paul Cayard.
Any way you look at it, he's just a tough guy. In the EF, he was the guy who would come out at night. He'd come out on the worst hours. A lot of skippers cover in their kind of bunks and hang out because they don't really have to go on. They don't have to stand to watch. Paul comes out when it's as bad as it gets and makes the guys feel comfortable about the situation, lends a hand, gets right into it. He may not say it, but he's good at it. This is his home down there.
The boats line up for the start in a windless bay at the foot of Table Mountain.
Guys, we're going to have to get the port board up.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It isn't the breathtaking charge the crowds hope for. As the boats creep out of Cape Town, Lucas Brun attempts to conceal his disappointment. The young Brazilian didn't make ABN AMRO 2's crew for the trip from Spain to South Africa, and after the boat's second-place finish, skipper Sebastian Josse has retained the same team for the next leg.
Well, once again, end up on the bench. Actually, on the bench, yeah. Well, the team ABN decided that from now on, I'm one of the reserves. So I only get in the boat for an offshore if someone gets hurt or gives up or something else. I'll be only doing inshore races, and I'll be flying all the time with the team, doing the best we can do to make the boat as best as possible. The only reason Seb could give it to me was that he was happy with the way the team was working offshore-wise, and he felt that no need for changing. Maybe a change could make it worse, or maybe a change could make it better, but he didn't feel like risking so much. It doesn't make you feel good, but it's still part of the game. That's the rules. You have to play it like that. You might not like it, but that's how it goes.
Back on the water, a container ship has blocked any wind that exists. This makes passing the first mark troublesome. As Brazil 1 struggle to get round, a frustrated Torben Grail begins to lose his cool. Pirates of the Caribbean are next to enter the chaos, their keel hooking itself around the buoy. With the boats proving difficult to maneuver in the light wind, ABN AMRO 1 comes into contact with Ericsson, taking out their guardrail. Ericsson then nudged Brazil 1, with both crews struggling to fend off. An extraordinary start to the second leg. Soon, however, the wind arrives and the fleet are on their way.